Welcome, fans. My name is Kris Kloss, and this is the debut, the inaugural show on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel of Cali's finest. The history from NorCal all the way to SoCal. So much to cover. The Grand Olympic Auditorium, the Cow Palace. I mean, you name it. So much history on the West Coast right here on Cali's finest. Now, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. Hey, you might even see this banner right here behind me at your local wrestling show. And if you do, don't be shy. Go ahead and scan that QR code and you're instantly a subscriber to the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. Cali's finest, the debut show. What better way to kick it off than one of the great legends? We're talking about the legendary one himself, Jesse Hernandez, EWF, San Bernardino. He's been in movies, Grunt, the wrestling movie, Body Slam. He's refereed at the LA Sports Arena for the WWF. He's been there, he's done that, and we're going to hear about it right here on Cali's finest, exclusively on the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. Enjoy this premiere debut episode.
It is my pleasure to be here, brother. My pleasure.
All right, Jesse. Well, thank you so much. So to kick it off, I mean, again, you've been involved in so many productions, movies, you name it. Where did you grow up?
I actually, well, I'm from Mexico, and we moved in 1960. My mother and I moved to Salinas, California, where I spent we spent 3 years there, and then we came down to San Bernardino. The family, my stepfather's family owned Mexican theaters throughout California, Santa Barbara, Soledad, Salinas, and somehow they convinced my stepfather into a purchase over here at the Azteca Theater in San Bernardino. It's an old theater that hasn't, they haven't run there in quite a while. It's just an empty building now, but that's what brought us to San Bernardino.
Okay, and then how did you become a wrestling fan, and when was that in your life?
Well, back in Salinas, I used to watch wrestling. Once in a while, it will come on, or I would switch channels or whatever. Well, not many channels back then, but there was Pat Patterson out of the Cow Palace, brother.
Right.
And that's one of the first TV matches that I saw out of the Cow Palace. And my stepfather was a kind of a fan. He once he took me to Watsonville, and they were at a wrestling show there. And I remember some of the guys that were there. It was Don Carson, the Fabulous Kangaroos, the Torres brothers, just to name a few. And it was pretty interesting. And then when we moved to San Bernardino, on Saturdays, or whatever days it was, I think it was Saturdays at that time, my stepfather and my mother would go to the matches every Saturday, and they left us to run the theater on those nights. Well, evidently, my stepbrother Michael had a friend, and he's Eddie Priest was his name, and he's the one that collected the money for parking at the old San Bernardino Arena, and he was going to go on vacation, and he needed somebody for a few weeks anyway, and he needed somebody to run the parking lot for him. And so he asked my stepbrother, and then he asked permission if he could do that. My stepfather says, "Well, with one condition, you handle it 1 week, and then the next week, and then I go." And so that's what got me into the live shows. And then he kind of let us switch off every other Saturday. Either he will go or I will go, But it was we switched it, but we cover our job there at the theater. So that's how I got into it, and I went to those matches, every chance I had, up until I reached the age of I think about 18. I stopped going. went out and partied more with my friends whenever I could, and that was, but that, until I got married. Once I got married, well, no more partying, no more running around. So I kind of started going back to the matches.
Yeah, totally. That's usually the transition, right? You take a little break from it, and then you kind of remember why you liked it so much. But yeah, but I got to ask you, like, that must have been an early education being at those theaters as how the business is run and how it works.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it all started there, flyering, my stepfather, with a theater, he will send us off on certain days, or when we were out from school, like on the weekends or whatever, and we promote with flyers for the theater, and he'd drop us off, me and my buddies and my stepbrother, and we will flyer Colton or different places just to for advertisement purpose, so get the people to go up to the theater. And that kind of took off into the wrestling business years later.
Totally,
Been
100%.
flyering ever since, I guess.
Yeah, right. Same here. How was the California wrestling scene in the 60s and in the 70s?
Oh man, brother, I'll tell you one thing, man. If I was a young kid like I was then, now, I doubted that I would have gotten into wrestling, bro, because it's not the same. It's not what it used to be. Seriously, bro. I
Right.
mean, these guys, their facial expressions, everything was so beautiful, man. I mean, it was an art, and they made you believe in what you were watching. And that's a problem that the young kids right now have. They don't even believe in themselves, brother.
Right.
They don't even believe in themselves. They have a hard time. There's a few that listen. There's many that the light bulb goes on maybe 2 or 3 years after I keep pushing it onto them. Then they come back and tell me, "Damn, I should have listened to you before." It's but, even the young guys right now, they'll eventually get it. Eventually, they will get it.
Hopefully not too late, though. I know what you mean.
Yeah, hopefully not too late. They're gonna learn by making a lot of mistakes. I'm
Right.
like a father. I'm like a father to them. I mean, at least I feel like they're my kids, and I'm concerned about them. Maybe I shouldn't give a shit anymore. Because some of these guys, they don't listen, brother. They don't
Right.
listen. Everything that you tell them, oh no, this guy's full of shit. No, they're gonna learn one way or another. They're gonna learn, man. I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
it's so true. I get it. I get it, man. Memories for you, Jesse. I know you worked there. I worked there just before the very end of it, but memories of the historic, maybe one of the finest wrestling venues in the world, the Grand Olympic Auditorium in the
Well, I
early.
had the fortune that those were beautiful years, man. I mean, the wrestlers at the time, I started off as a wrestler. I wanted to be a wrestler. I worked as a fryer with a mask, me and my tag team partner, and nobody wanted to give us a break back then. Nobody wanted to give us our first match. Goliath, we finally got Goliath to train us. I mean, we spent 2 years of the training, 1 year, but almost by ourselves, with no professional help whatsoever. And into the second year, we put in a good amount of time with the great Goliath, and he couldn't even get us matches, bro. It was very hard. Um, Once, right before we started with Goliath, I had permission by Jeff Walton to use the San Bernardino Arena to train because we didn't have a ring. We trained at the YMCA, but there was no ring. It was just a mat room. And out of appreciation, um, I sold tickets for Walton at the box office, and my partner Juan Hernandez, well, he became an usher at the arena, and then that was our way of saying thank you for allowing us to use that ring. But yet they would not give us our first match. We had to get our match somewhere else. Goliath finally somebody wanted to use Goliath down in Tijuana, and he said with one condition, give my boys an opportunity. Now this is after 2 years of training. not 6 months. Like, some guys, they train 6 months, maybe even a year, and they expect to work every single show that the promotion that they work for puts out. That's ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous. And bro, we worked Tijuana. Our first match was against Rey Mysterio Sr. and Pequeño Apolo.
Oh wow.
And on that match, we had a tremendously. I would pay $1,000 if anybody's got that match on tape, some kind of video. I will buy it for $1,000 because it
Wow.
was a great match, a really great match. We got compliments from everyone. They put us on the third match, not at the beginning, not on the first match where it should have been plus one more match. No, we were right at center. Out of 5 matches, third match, and we got compliments from the doctor. We got compliments from the commission. I think what did it too was Ray telling us, "Listen, we've been promoting the heck out of you on radio, and we've been telling everybody that you're a hot team coming in from Japan. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know." I told my partner, "Man, we can't screw up. We can't act like the rookies. I mean, we have to really go in there and do a hell of a job," and which we did, man. And then we rushed because it was a Sunday. I remember it was Sunday, and Jeff Walton was, but by the time we got back to San Bernardino, they were shutting down the arena for that night. They had matches there, and I told Jeff, we finally got our match. He said, "I'll hear about it." And I think it was that. Well, I think the following Monday, a couple of days later, I get a call from Jeff. He says, "I need you in Fresno on Thursday, and I need you in San Bernardino on Sunday." And that was the beginning of it all. And the following Sunday after that, we went back for the rematch against Rey Mysterio and Pequeño Apolo, and they put us over, believe it or not. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it also, everything just came up. I mean, very fortunate for me to have accomplished what I have accomplished, throughout my years. It wouldn't have happened without, Jeff Walton. It wouldn't have happened without Goliath. It wouldn't have happened if I had not listened to people when they tell me to do something and do it right, instead of listening to idiots, that don't know any better. And then they want to, "Oh, come on over here," because if you come over here, man, we're gonna make you a superstar. Bullshit, man. And that's what's going on in this business right now. There's
Yeah.
a lot of promotions that have no business in promoting, and they take away talent by offering them. Can you believe I just heard a good one today, man? And I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
Here's a kid that's he's got 2 matches, in EWF. Okay, my promotion,
Yep.
and some dingbat out there is, offering him the world. "Oh, we're gonna do this with you. Come and work for us, and we're gonna do this and that." How is that? Honestly, is that the way you want to do business? You know, how is that possible? How if you're a good promoter, you're gonna want the best talent for your promotion, right?
Right.
Yeah. How and yet this happens a lot, where they take young kids and just to get them away from where they're at into their shit promotion, and I don't know. I just can't believe it, bro. I can't believe it.
And
But
and and it seems like when you say that, they're just doing that kid a disservice. It might be a short-term gain, but
absolutely,
they're
yeah,
gonna they're gonna spend that money. That 15 minutes of fame is gonna expire, but they're
mhm,
always gonna regret not, "Oh, I could have put my time in. I could have learned the art,"
yeah.
like you said, the art.
Yeah, yeah. You don't know how many times opportunities came about that were offered to me while I was under Goliath's training. We had a kid that was pissed off at Goliath, and for whatever reason, and he wanted to take off and buy a ring and put it on in his some barn in Riverside somewhere, and he asked me and Juan, my partner, if I buy a ring, can you guys train me? Because for whatever reason he had beef with Goliath. And I told Goliath, "Hey, this guy offered us this," and he said, "You know what? If you guys decide to do it, go ahead. But I'm done with you guys." So guess what? We didn't do it, you know, and we always listened, to whatever he said. we had opportunities to work for promoters that weren't really that great, or maybe they were against what Jeff with what Mike LaBelle was doing at the Olympic, and that's a promotion that I worked, with Jeff Walton and everything else, and so you got promotions that don't get along. You don't want to work for those promotions. If you're already working for a good promotion, stay with it, man, and then see what happens.
Right.
And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about about everything that I've done.
That's right. And speaking of everything you've done, I mean, talking about the 60s, 70s, the Grand Olympic. Now, I remember, Jesse, seeing you going to shows at the LA Sports Arena, and I wore this shirt. This is the this was the final show ever at the LA Sports Arena. Bruce Springsteen, of course, 2016. And but no, man, I remember seeing WWF on the Z channel, which was like an HBO channel back in the day, and kind of worked at like the MSG network did for the Madison Square Garden shows. The Z channel aired LA Sports Arena shows. So it was WWF TV kind of, but it was on TV. And
right.
Yeah, and you were always featured as one of the head officials, the referees for those shows. And so as a kid, a young man, and watching that, I didn't really know at the time your connection to Southern California history, because at that time they kayfabed all of it. These are just WWF.
Absolutely, they did. Yeah.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah. So
now everybody.
I'm sorry.
Now everybody knows the business nowadays. Everything's so exposed.
It's funny. Jesse, it's funny. I got approached to do this and the Extreme Memory shows like a couple of years ago, and I kind of didn't want to do it because of that reason. And even when I did the Wrestling Society X MTV, everybody was starting to do shoot interviews, and I still held off on doing those. And when I did them, I was kayfabing it because I thought this is not right. This is not right. And now we're to the point where it's like you can't fight it. Yeah, you can't fight it. So. But that's
even it's even the top stars are talking about it, on the podcast. Everybody, is talking about, everything that shouldn't be talked about, and it wouldn't have been talked about 20, 30 years ago.
and you, I mean, in some ways, this is a first, which is an honor, because you are that upholding of those traditions you talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. And this is and again, this is why there was so much more. There was a lot of mystique around you. So because you were also in a movie called Grunt, and I Like to Hurt People, right? Yeah.
No, not on that one. Not on I Like to Hurt People. I wasn't that.
Oh,
I did Body Slam.
Yeah, you did Body Slam.
Huh?
You were the Russian in Grunt.
On Grunt, yeah, I played the Russian. I played referee. The wrestling scene as it goes into color, from black and white into color, and there's a match in the background. That was the Friars. That was me and my partner against I think it was Salvador Lothario and Alex Knight as the medics or something like that.
Oh, right.
Dressed in white.
Yeah. And it was like. Yeah. And they had this Russian, this guy from the Soviet Union. If you look close, it's
yeah. It was somebody else to do that part, and he didn't show up. And since I was there, I had to be at almost all the tapings, the filming of that had anything to do with wrestling. I was in charge of helping get local talent and stuff like that, for the movie. And so I was always there. And so they needed a Russian, so they they used me.
Really?
So I look more. I look like a German guy instead of.
Oh, there you go. Well, you're from Mexico. You moved to the U.S. You look German, but you play Russian. So I don't know how that works, but
only in wrestling.
Only in wrestling. Yeah, but then we actually have something in common because I had Gary Key on the Extreme Memory show because
Right.
his
I
involvement with.
remember. Great interview. That was a good one.
Oh, thank you. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's awesome, of course, because of his involvement with Tool, right? But
Mhm.
anyway, he was talking about how, like you said, you were very instrumental with usually when there be productions in Hollywood, whether it be TV shows or movies that used wrestlers or would use a wrestling ring. I mean, there have been so many TV shows. Family Matters, from any NBC show you can think or CBS, and also I think you and I have something in common, which was totally unrelated. But I was an extra in the movie Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey. Uh,
Oh,
but that
wow.
but you supplied that ring to the Grand Olympic, I'm sure, correct?
I, I can't remember. I,
Okay.
I might have. If I did it, I wasn't there though. I know there was a couple of movies that I was not able to be there because of work, so I don't remember if that was one of them.
And you did, and you
But
also.
I would send my
So I was going to say you also did do it for Ed Wood,
Ed Wood. I played the masked wrestler on Ed Wood.
right?
Hmm I,
And
I was a masked wrestler on Ed Wood against George Steele.
right, okay. Um, my grandfather, by the way, he worked with George Steele's brother for years in the city of Santa Monica, and I didn't know this till later. But yeah,
Really?
um,
Oh,
small world.
wow. It is.
It's
It really is.
it's a
It truly
small,
is.
yeah. And so Jesse, how was that, man? How were those days of working those shows in the 80s at the LA Sports Arena for the
Oh, they
WWF?
were, they were wonderful, man. I used to go up there. I just got fortunate. I started off as a wrestler, and Tom Renesto, who was the booker for LaBelle at the time, one day came to me and said, "Hey, I need you to start refereeing." They were trying to get rid of somebody. I don't know who it was at the time, and I said, "Man, I don't want to be a referee. I'm a wrestler." Typical, idiot, like most others. And then Tom says, "Well, if you're not wrestling, you're refereeing. If you're not refereeing, you're wrestling. You always have a job." And that sounded very interesting. I said, "Well, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a try." And I wasn't even trained. I was just thrown in there. Yeah,
Wow.
nobody. Maybe I learned by watching a lot of wrestling. I knew what, as a referee, what to do. I watched a lot of Red Shoes Dugan, who was a great guy, a good friend, and how I dearly miss that guy, man. Yeah. Anyway, pretty much I learned from watching, man. And I became a referee, and you know what? I made more money as a referee than I did as a wrestler. So there
Wow.
you go. Yeah. So it paid off. You just got to take chances, man.
What was the biggest match you refed at any of those LA? I remember there was one match where was it you that got knocked out or Hepner got knocked out, but you were helping him back to the dressing room at the LA Sports Arena.
I don't remember, but I refereed a lot of matches. The Hogan, versus Piper, the King Kong Bundys, and all those, man. Those were great years. When Eddie Guerrero died, and I went to the funeral, and at the time that they just wanted the family, to view the body, and everybody was sent outside. I walked up to Vince McMahon and I said, "Vince, I don't know if you remember me, Jesse Hernandez." And he said, "Of course I remember you, Jesse." He said, I says, "Listen, I just want to let you know that the years that I worked for you, I learned so much, you know, and the memories will live with me forever." And man, I felt that I saw a little, bit of a little sparkle in his eye there, man.
Yeah.
Maybe because I wasn't asking for a job back or anything like that. I don't know,
Right.
or maybe I
Right.
touched, but I appreciate it. And he said, and man, he says, you met my wife, my daughter. I said, yes, yeah. But anyway, and I was sincere with that. I was very
Yeah.
sincere, and it was nice for me to have been able to let him know that. And I can tell you that the following month we went back to Phoenix for a WWF show, and I had taken a couple of guys for tryouts, and I'm standing next to Brandon Gatson on one side of the ring. Vince comes in and goes straight to the corner, to get on his headphones and direct, whatever he's going to direct, this is during the day on one of the Raw tapings, and he looked my way, and Brandon says, "Hey, Vince was looking over there," and then right away Vince came out to where I was at and shook my hand. What a moment that was, brother, and how you doing, Jess? And I said, very well, sir. And the next day, same thing happened it happened in LA the very next day. He's looking at me. Same thing. We're on this side of the ring, me and Brandon. He's on the other side. He goes up to the headphones, looks my way, but he didn't come. And then Vincent and Brandon says, he was looking over here. I said, yeah, but he's not going to come. So this time I got to go. He's acknowledging me by looking my way, but I got to be the one that goes up there, And
Right.
slowly, I don't like other people, but I walked over there to, and he's on that side of the steps, and I'm on this side of the steps, and and he's looking at me with a big smile, and Michael Cole comes up and he puts his hand right on his chest, like stop, and goes to shake my hand. How you doing, pal? And I said, well, I just want to say hi, and I left, of course. But yeah, that's that's a hell of a compliment, man, to be acknowledged, man. So yeah, man, that's a great memory for me, man.
Did you
Can be.
Do you remember when that was that you started? Because my first show I can remember was October 1988, and the main event was Haku and Hogan, and then it was Honky Tonk Man and Ultimate Warrior, and then it was Ravishing Rick Rude, Jake the Snake. And I remember you were there at that one, but do you remember when you started? Were you involved in Wrestlemania 2 in 1986?
No, I started with everything that was done on the West Coast, in the early years. I was a part of it, and the reason that I was a part of it was because when Mike LaBelle sold out to Vince McMahon,
Yeah,
he kept his office open because he became the California promoter for Vince McMahon. Okay,
right.
so he sold out to him, but he became the California promoter. And at the time, I was getting laid off from work, from my job that I had, servicing heavy equipment, and so I was laid off. And at that time, Mike called me, or had Jeff or somebody call me and say that to tell me that they needed me to go up there and help him once a week on Mondays in his office, do errands for him, different things. And eventually he got rid of all the help in the office, and I was the only one that he allowed to go in on Mondays to help him out. I go buy stamps for him, whatever he needed. I did help him with the contracts, type out the contracts for New Japan, the wrestlers going to New Japan, and he had told me the actual gal that was sending the wrestlers was a gal named Chica, a Japanese lady. And he said, "Don't ever teach her anything on how we do things, because that's our bread and butter." He said.
Right.
So I was doing work, the making phone calls and and running up to the embassy with paperwork and doing all that stuff for the wrestlers going to New Japan, including making the contracts and stuff. So that was quite a learning experience, and so I was doing that on Mondays, and then Vince will send we did of 9 weeks of television on Channel 9 before the first shows out here in California, and to introduce the talent that he was going to be bringing in, and so I will deliver those tapes to Channel 9 that Vince was sending, and then when we had the first shows, at that time Rachel Dugan was the head referee, so he was the referee every show. He was on all the shows, and me and Bob Bockwinkel will rotate, the
Right.
refereeing. One day he will do, let's say I hit San Diego, and I will do LA, or vice versa. That was like that for a while, and but I had to show up at all the shows because I had to make sure that we had a proper dressing room. I had to handle the advance payments on the wrestlers coming in from New York, and then I also did the booking. Mike LaBelle will give me a list of local wrestlers to use, because back then WWE or WWF was only sending, say, 5 matches, I think 5 or 6 matches, and then I had to create three or four matches locally with the local guys. And
Wow.
Mike LaBelle, hey, here's a list of guys to use, and then I was in charge of sending the paperwork to the athletic commission as well, and so I was involved in all of that, and then eventually. Red Bastien took over that job of Mike's, and but I still kept my job. I still kept my refereeing job uh, even after Mike was no longer there. So
And
yeah, I mean, for being young in the business at the time, I mean, I had my first match in '81, and you're talking about what, '83, '84, something like that, when they first came out, and I was involved in all that stuff, man. So that was that's, I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate.
That was an interesting time when Vince came in, kind of took over. That was the end of the territories in the early 80s, and then his takeover 83, like you said, 83, 84. It just kind of all happened at once. Hogan becoming the guy, and then they take over. It's amazing when you look back how it just kind of all the pieces happened at once.
And I had no idea that it was going to turn out the way it did. I mean,
Right.
it became something major, something big. I mean, if I had known, I mean, I had access to programs, for the first WrestleMania. Can you imagine how many I should have kept? I think I
Oh,
only kept one, and got a couple of signatures on it. I would have taken out at least 20 or 30 and be making money on the internet right now with them.
I mean, you know what, Jesse? You're talking about WrestleMania. I've looked recently on eBay just at XPW merchandise from 20, almost 25 years ago, and it's like, oh my gosh, we had boxes of these things in the warehouse that I could have taken like 2 boxes. They wouldn't have known, or they would have wanted me to take it.
$1.
Right. So I can only imagine at the Grand Olympic Auditorium or the early days of the sports arena, those WWF programs,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. So that was interesting because again, like you said, there was a transition from the local guys, which was Mike LaBelle, and then Vince took over. When he did, he first started coming to shows. Doing WWF was starting to do shows at the Grand Olympic, but that only lasted for like 2 or 3 shows.
Yeah, it wasn't that many. It wasn't that many. Then we went up to the sports arena. You know that the first LA show only drew about 2,000 people, if I remember
Whoa.
correctly. That was it, bro. And a lot of the fans weren't used to the wrestlers from back east.
Yeah.
And
And also you got like it was kind of like when you say that it reminds me of the Black Saturday on TBS when Vince took over and the people were like, wait, this isn't our wrestling. Now, had he been kept on doing that, but that was the thing. That was an interesting time because the old guard was leaving and all these new kids, these new fans from what they seen on national television, it was almost like it was the same wrestling, but it was a totally this fan base is in, this fan base comes in, this fan base goes out, but they're a little bit of the old timers. I remember going to shows at the sports arena, and you could feel there were still some of those old timers floating around of the old territory, but not nearly as many, I don't think.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Did you see guys kind of crying sour grapes at that time when Vince started taking over?
Well, nobody's going to complain with the guys that are working. In other words, the guys that I use, they never complain about nothing. I'm sure that there was a lot that I didn't see,
Right.
because it was only a list of the local talent that I was able to use, according to what Mike LaBelle wanted me to use. as far as local talent. He said, "Hey, make sure that you take care of Billy Anderson, take care of Jack Armstrong," and I had a list, but but nobody will complain to me because I think they felt that I was an office boy, an office type of guy, so nobody was going to say anything. I know that there was a lot of complaints when Mike LaBelle was running. There was a lot of sour grapes back then, especially in some of the big shows that they felt that Mike LaBelle should have paid him a whole lot better, And but I kind of come from the old school of LaBelle. He would run a show with 5 matches, and I'll tell you, there was an event in San Bernardino that I did the booking for, and it was some guy from Moreno Valley that was the promoter, and he was involved with Armando Muñiz, the boxer, and anyway, I did the booking because when Mike LaBelle couldn't promote anymore, he would throw my name out. So these guys come out, and they're boxing promoters, and they show up at the San Bernardino Arena on a day that Goliath and ourselves are training there, and this guy offers me the booking. Hey, can you do? Mike LaBelle says that to talk to you about booking some wrestlers, and I said, all right. So I did, and I did 5 matches, bro. 4 single matches and an 8-man elimination match, and we drew 700 people. 700 people. This after Mike LaBelle hadn't run San Bernardino in a while, and all the other promoters that were running here and there, they weren't drawing that much. Believe it or not, they were not drawing that much, and we were able to draw 700 people. I did this gimmick where briefcase, I think I call briefcase or suitcase full of money, which is all BS, and that drew the people with 5 matches. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And nowadays everybody's running with so many dang matches and stuff like that, But I learned that from Mike. Mike was running 5 matches. A lot of times he would use the guy, a couple of guys from the second match, and come back in a tag match at the end, to complete the 5 matches.
Right.
So I learned a lot, and I paid attention and everything, and I'm proud of what I accomplished.
Well,
I may not have been a great big star or anything like that, but you know what? I work with all of them.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. I'm going to get to that in a little bit because when I got into the business, I already knew who you were. And well, really quick, before we wrap up this whole sports arena thing, did you notice though? Of course, like you said, when business is good, nobody's going to complain, right? And if you're a traditionalist in wrestling, well, once the new style of wrestling paychecks come in, it's like tradition. I don't need it, But did you notice that with the crowd, with the fans, that the hardcore fans that were a mainstay at the Grand Olympic before WWF was even a thing, when it was still territory, did you see some shift in like, wait a minute, what's happening to my LA territory wrestling? What's this New York stuff coming in here?
Well, I kind of felt that even I think a year or so before Mike LaBelle decided to sell out, I got a feeling that, of course, he already knew that he was selling out, and he was not drawing enough people. San Bernardino Arena, I think, held quite a number of seats. Yeah, they had quite a number of seats. I think it was, if I remember correctly, and I may be wrong, I don't know, maybe 1,400 or something, and it was coming down. The crowd was coming down, and I suggested at the time that I was starting to wrestle. I mean, I wanted to see the place full,
Yeah.
and it wasn't getting like that. And I told Jeff, I said, Jeff, if you buy some posters and flyers, man, and send them to me, I'll put them out, and let's get some more people in this building. And then he will do that, and we started. The crowds came up. You know, I think we didn't do it every single week, but we did it enough that it made a difference. And then Mike LaBelle had the Tom Bernesto, the booker, come to San Bernardino, so I could show him exactly what I was doing with these flyers. What they wanted to do is create a list of all the stores and liquor stores, whatever where I was putting the flyers, and get all the names and and give them a little promotion. And they were going to make a big poster and have everybody, all the stores' names on the bottom, and just out of appreciation, because they felt that, okay, we're doing something good here, and they wanted to thank them. While we were out riding around, going from one place to another, just to make conversation, I told Tom, I said, at the San Bernardino Arena, I sell tickets, and during intermission, we do this where I sell advance tickets for the next week and stuff like that. So I created an idea, and I told him, and he loved it, and we did it. I don't know if we have the time to tell you that, the whole story, but it had something to do with where okay, I'm not refereeing, but I'm in the crowd, and I see a heel using his legs on the rope to pin the baby face. You know, uh, one of the guys was from Mexico, Monarca, El Monarca, and the other guy I can't remember his name. Um, and so I see that he's using his foot on the ropes to pin him, and
Mhm.
so I snitch on him. I tell the ref, Bachwinkle, I think it was, hey, he used his foot on the ropes, da, 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 So that pisses him off. And then during intermission, while I'm selling tickets, that guy, the heel, comes and starts pounding away on me. We take the fight outside, we come back, and my shirt's torn, and I say that I want to match with you next week, for what you've done, for attacking me and stuff like that. And then I suggested, the whole scenario, and Tom loved it. He loved it, and he said, "You know what, son? We're gonna do that, brother. I'm just telling you. I'm just making conversation. I don't mean for you to, for me to tell you what to do or whatever. No, no, no. That's a great idea. Make a long story short, bro. Um, we did the match, and then I get attacked. I came up with the Flores brothers that come in and attack me during the match, and they all beat the hell out of me. I had suggested for Chris Adams and my tag partner to come in and save me, and but he said no, it can't be Chris because he's leaving for Texas. But he said we'll use my son Tim Pelfrey to come in and save you along with Juan. Because they knew Juan would referee on occasions at the Olympic and stuff like that. The fans did, and so they come in and save me, and then we're coming back in a 6-man tag war, 6-man tag team war,
Wow.
and then the week that we're supposed to do that match, uh, Jeff Walton tells us we're not going to do the match today. I said, why? I mean, we're all going, gone go for it. He said, no, 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 no. We got Mascaras on the card. I want to give you full credit for whatever attendance you pull in, with your match. So what you're going to do, you guys are going to pick it outside, saying that the promoter doesn't allow you guys to do the match, and that this is not sanctioned by the athletic commission, and you got to get signatures. So if you get signatures, we'll do the match, but it'll be like a dark match. In other words, this is not wrestling. This is a feud, a real feud, And if you want to go, if the fans want to go home, it's called a dark match. You can go home if you want to. You don't have to watch this type of thing, So anyway, we're out there on Sunday, and with a picket sign out there, picketing, getting people to sign this cardboard, guys. We need as many signatures as we can get. Well, to give us this match. And here comes Mascaras, he's coming in. He's got Channel 9 behind him, filming him. And then he walks into the building. Channel 9 turns their attention on us. And what's going on here? We explain everything. Anyway, make a long story short, Jeff Welton, I was told by Jeff that we drew more, what was it, more people than Mascaras did on our show. But he made more money because the prices were raised, when Mascaras was in town, prices went higher, right? So, but we actually drew more people. And that's what Jeff wanted to prove. And you can ask him if you ever see him.
And you guys, and you guys knew the Channel 9 cameras were going to be there.
We had no idea. No, we had no idea.
Really?
No idea. I mean, I didn't know. I mean,
You're right.
The wrestlers come in from the side of the building, and this time Mascaras wanted to, come in with the cameras behind him, enter the building and then into the dressing room. But they didn't go with him; they stayed outside with us.
That's awesome.
For a little while.
Only, like you said before, only wrestling.
Exactly. And so I think that was that's why Mike LaBelle you know, thought that I had a mind for this.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's why he always anytime anybody wanted to come into San Bernardino to run boxing and wrestling, he will tell him Jesse will help you out. Jesse
Right.
will help you out. And when I did the bookings like that, or for people like that, I would use the bigger guys because I knew what was selling in WWF at the time were the bigger size bodies. So I
Right.
would use like Jack Armstrong, um, Jack, Ripper Savage. He was not that
Yeah.
great of a wrestler, but he had the body. So
Yeah.
and I used New York. I mean, I used guys that actually look like wrestlers,
And
and
you
that's what
you
that's
were you were you were friends with Alex Knight?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. He was now, did you ever do, speaking of SoCal, did you ever, because I was on one of the last guests he ever had was Wally George. Were you ever, did
Oh,
you ever
Wally George.
did you ever
No,
do
the only time I see Wally George was in the movie
right,
where
yeah.
he showed the thing. Yeah, but I wasn't there. It was just a film. That
That was Wally George played himself in his
mhm,
own TV studio in Grunt, the wrestling
mhm,
movie, which you were involved in. That's where you played
mhm.
the Russian.
The
Um,
Russian.
yeah, and amongst other things. And but no, we'll kind of connect the dots here because Alex, myself, Ripper Savage, we were all on Wally George at one point in time because
Mhm.
he did stuff with roller games, he did stuff with
Yeah,
wrestling, of course. Yeah.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, SoCal history right there.
yeah,
But
no,
in
absolutely.
yeah, in Body Slam. Now, Body Slam, the movie, of course, Dirk Benedict from the A Team, Roddy Piper, the Samoans.
Mhm,
But at the very end of the movie, you had all the legends at ringside. It's filmed at the LA Sports Arena. It was Ric
mhm,
Flair. It was Freddie Blassie, uh, uh,
right.
uh, Sheik
And then
Adnan Al-KC,
yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
you had Chick Hearn.
Well, yeah, yeah.
He was the
Incredible.
Laker legend. Chick Hearn was in that movie, calling the action, and he even said, "It
Mhm.
like we're coming to you from the LA Sports Arena down in Los Angeles, and it's wrestling extravaganza." And it was just,
Right, right.
yeah, and now there was a point in that movie where the brawl starts on the floor with all the wrestlers and the fans, but you were
Mhm.
the one that
Yeah.
started the brawl.
I turn Bruno Sammartino over, and he slaps me on the chest, and I take a bump back, and then everybody starts fighting.
That was all because of you.
Yeah, because of me, man.
That's
You can
great.
blame me for that.
And I remember watching that back, like, why why is Jesse Hernandez starting this all this shit? You, you were the referee in that building trying to stop the fighting, and here you start this brawl.
Yeah, but my tag team partner Juan Hernandez was a referee on that one match. Juan
Okay.
was in the. It was Piper and Tonga Kid against the big Samoan, and then his partner. Anyway, on that and my Juan told me that Piper had told him, look, when they say cut, we're going to continue. We got real
Oh,
fans here. We have real fans. We're not gonna stop wrestling when they say cut. We're gonna keep on going. You just stay with us, he says, and that's what he did.
wow.
And then Tom Needman, I never seen anybody jump the ropes as good as he did that day. When he said yelling cut, cut, and nobody's, they're not stopping. He jumps over the top rope, stops. This is a movie. This that. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. But Piper, that's how Piper, he loved the business so much, and he respected the business, bro. He was amazing. What an amazing person he was.
Another thing, Jesse, as far as being a small world, I got the honor to work with him, and I actually did play-by-play with him in 2015, which ended up being the very last thing he ever did in pro wrestling because it was we were filming a pilot up in Point Hueneme, and it was a new wrestling company, and it was myself on play-by-play, and Roddy Piper was the color guy, and he passed away within a month. So that was the last thing he ever did. And
Damn.
it's a small world because you and I crossed paths. I got into it. I don't know. I never dreamt I would be doing what I did, and you did, and then you worked with Piper, and I ended up later in my career worked with Piper, but
Mhm.
but yeah, you're right. He even at that point in time, as legendary as he was right before he died in 2015, you could feel like he was just treating himself as one of the boys, treating this world of pro wrestling as a kayfabe, and
Mhm.
he didn't hold himself like, well, you know me, I'm a big celebrity now in wrestling. Like, no, what we're doing today is the most important thing ever. And it was just like,
Mhm.
that's that's what it's all
And
about, man. And it was beautiful
what I
watching.
loved about him, what I loved about him is that he will never hesitate about giving some young guy advice. You know, I mean,
Oh
take him
yeah,
under his wing. You know, if he met you at a show and you're training and you want to be a wrestler, he
right.
was right there for you. You know, he will take the time to talk to you. I saw him do that with certain people. Yeah, great guy.
I have my critics and I have people that have complimented me and I think that's the greatest was when he after we because I don't think he may have seen me a little bit, but after we were done, he was like, "Oh man, where have you worked?" And this, that's, that, the other. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I was
Mhm.
gonna give you some pointers, and I that meant I was like speechless, when he said that. And I
Yeah, yeah.
and I remember thinking like I believe him because some people will tell you, "Oh, you're awesome," but I don't know if they really think that. But I remember
Yeah.
thinking like I believe him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sincere
so
individual.
yeah, I remember how wonderful he was, Jesse, and I thank you for sharing that too. Now, I wanna jump ahead a little bit here. What was it like? Because in Southern California, okay, obviously the territories were done, and Vince kind of took over not just here in LA, but everywhere,
Mhm.
except for the South, really, right? But
Yeah.
but anyway, what was it like when there was some money pumped in and the UWF, the Universal Wrestling Federation, Herb Abrams,
Right.
and they did
Mhm.
shows in 1990. I want to say they went in right
Right.
because we bookended the Reseda Country Club in the 90s. It was 1990 Herb
Mhm.
Abrams, and then we came in XPW in 99. But before we
Yeah.
get to that, what was the vibe in 99 or excuse me 1990 with UWF coming into Reseda?
Well, all I know that this guy supposedly he said he had money and he wanted to rent my ring, and I didn't really know him that well. He actually wanted to rent my ring for the shows and had me referee and stuff. But man, he was quite a character, man. I mean, it really was. And gosh darn, there's so many stories I can tell about him at this point, man. But crazy. Um, then he wanted a new canvas. So he wanted a dark blue canvas. He told me one time, and he bought it, and I kept it in the truck, and then he stopped running. After he Reseda, he stopped running for a while,
Right,
and then all of a sudden he's got a big show that he wants to do in Vegas you know at the MGM,
right.
and and he um and he calls me, but I knew the kind of person he was. There was some times that he wasn't paying his talent well, or paying them at all. Let's say. So I always kind of I was always a step of him, one step ahead of him. Um, he wanted turnbuckles, and my partner used to make the turnbuckles kind of like WWE,
Yeah.
the square.
Mhm.
And so and he made them for the WWF for the WWF one of the first rings that they wanted to use those pads in over here in California,
Oh,
and
wow.
he charged them $300. And so then so he was going to make the pads for the first pads he made for Herb, and charged him $300. and and then that was for the show-ups here in Reseda.
Okay.
And then he did something in New York, and he lost them.
Yeah.
And he had the pads, and so he wanted brand new pads because he wanted to do that show in at the MGM.
Yeah.
And so by then I had found a lady that will make those pads for $150. So
Oh,
I
wow.
gave him my price of 300, because I wanted to make sure that, that I get my money from him. Yeah. So I said, look, I got somebody that can make your pads, because evidently somebody stole them out in New York, or I don't know. But anyway, he needed new pads for the MGM. I said, um, I'll get some made for you, but you got to give me half the money up front. I wanted to cover myself, make sure I got the 150, because that's what they were originally going to charge me for them anyway. But if I can make another 150 from him, that's great. And so I had to make, and then it took him forever to pay me, but I wasn't going to turn them loose until I got the money.
Right.
And so I'm Howard with me over to Santa Monica, trying to collect my money for the pads that he wanted. And so, and he says, "Well, where's some pads? Where are they? They're in my trunk of my car." I said, "You pay me what you owe me for them, and I'll give them to you." And finally, he did. And so then he sends them off on a plane to Vegas, because the two brothers, what the hell were their names? God, a couple of brothers that wrestled out in Vegas. They had a printing business, so they were going to print the UWF logo on the pads, right? So he puts all the pads in a box along with paint, and then puts them on a plane, sends them off to Vegas. Guess what? The paint exploded in the plane, and it damaged 6 of the pads.
Oh, jeez.
The pads full of yellow paint. So he calls me in a panic. He says, "Just, I sent the pads in the plane. The paint it blew off, and then the splattered paint all over the pads. And 6 of them anyway." I said, "Don't worry, I got 6. I can sell you for 150." So
Wow.
then I gave him a couple of old ones that I had, and of course I had got some made for myself afterwards. Anyway, so we get to Vegas. Finally I get to Vegas, and we're ready to do that the whole the ring setup and everything else. But he says, that blue canvas, and I had forgotten that he had bought it, bro. He had bought it years before. So he says, "What about if we paint the logo on the blue canvas?" I said, "I can't do that, man. I rent my ring to other people. I can't have a UWF." And then I completely forgot that them pads, that the them canvas belonged to him.
Okay.
So he said, "What will it take?" I said, "Well, I'd have to buy another one. Give you at least $400, and they can paint it if they want." So I got $400, and he gives me a check, and the twins, there were the twins that two brothers that were out in Vegas, and they were so eager to do the work that he gives me a check that I can't cash there at the MGM. So I said, "No, I gotta have cash or something. How am I going to cash this check?" And the twin says, I'll take that the money to the bank, and I got to cash our check too as well." So I went with him, collected my money, and their check bounced, and that check that he had given me bounced as well. But I mean,
Wow.
I had the money, so that's on them. I guess I tried to collect from her. I don't know if they did or not. Eventually, they might have. I don't know. But nonetheless, Um, so then what happens? It was a hectic day doing the pay-per-view. It was a pay-per-view that they did there at the MGM. And I was so tired at the end that the money that he gave me for the ring rental and me refereeing was, I think it was a total of 800 and almost $900. Well, guess what? I forgot that check I could have cashed at the MGM, because they were like partners at the MGM,
Okay.
Herb and MGM, and I could have cashed it, and I completely forgot. I was so tired. I went straight to bed. I come home, put it in my bank, it bounced. So then,
Oh,
but there was a commission. There was a athletic commission in Vegas, so I was going up there every month for TC Martin. So on one of our trips, and the other referee, also his check bounced as well. So we went up to the commission and got the money from them, and they collected from his bond that he had applied for or whatever. So I got my money from Herb.
right.
We went, um, there was another. One of the times that that we wound up going to New York for Herb. We went and visited Vince at his office. We drove, myself and Spicoli. We drove. We took the train. We took the train to Connecticut, to Stamford, and had a great time. Vince was very nice with us, and had a driver take us all over the place to look at the studio. This is when this is us. They were barely making the tower. The, what do you call it? The Titan Tower or whatever.
What year? What year are we talking?
Well, somewhere in the 90s, maybe 90. I don't know. I don't remember. 90 some. 92, 93. I don't know. And but we had a blast out there. Vince treated us well, and they showed us around, and the warehouse where they kept everything.
Yeah.
And studio where they where they filmed the different things, promos, I guess, and the library of all the film that they had there. Oh my God, it was incredible. Had a great time.
I was there too. I had a tryout, and I became friends with Joey Styles, and I kind of walked through all that, and it was kind of pretty surreal, a pretty cool experience.
Absolutely. But when he took me to New York, he says, "Jess, don't charge me a lot. I'll make sure that you are fed every time I go out to eat. You're going to be with me." And he kept his word.
And this is Vince McMahon.
Now this is Herb
Abrams. Okay. Yeah.
Herb charged me only $500 for you to go referee up there. He had 2 or 3 shows. One of them got canceled, but we did 2 shows. Paid me $500, and I didn't have to spend a dime. Bill Anderson, his check bounced. I don't know what he did or what pissed him off or whatever, but his check bounced out there.
Wow.
And a few other people as well. But I was like, but that's Herb, man. Herb was kind of a little crazy.
Yeah. So were you involved? I know you said not WrestleMania 2, but were you involved with WrestleMania 7 at the sports arena?
There was a WrestleMania when Bundy wrestled Hogan. Which one was that?
2.
The only involvement I had was helping setting up the cage. That was it, brother.
Oh, okay. All right. And then
Cincinnati and myself and Gary, I believe, we all and a few other people were the ones that helped set up the cage for the match. Yeah.
And did you go out to Vegas with WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace? Were you involved in any of that?
I think so. I don't know. I don't remember.
No.
I don't remember that thing.
So that was an interesting time for California. And then, Herb Abrams UWF kind of folded shop. What were your thoughts when XPW kind of bursted onto the SoCal scene? Kind of similar in some ways. The guys that was running it, you got Herb Abrams, an eccentric guy, and then you had Rob Black, a very eccentric guy.
Yeah.
But both guys had money, and I remember, Jesse, I was doing stuff in wrestling on a local level, kind of involved with Slammers Wrestling Gym and the SCCW, and then XPW came around, and I remember the first ever show seeing you, and I remember, you were in the audience, and Bill Anderson and all your crew, but I remember when I saw you, I was like, whoa, Jesse Hernandez is coming to watch something I'm doing, and Jesse Hernandez, all the stuff that we've already talked about here. So in my mind, it was like, whoa, this feels pretty darn big because you got Jesse here. You got some other people in the wrestling world, and a few celebrities were there too. This, again, was at Reseda Country Club, and we had commercials on during Monday Night Raw, during all the Monday Nitro, which was kind of unheard of at that time.
Yeah. The reason that Bill and I were there, was that we were asked, they wanted us to be a part of that, right. And please come and check it out. So they gave us tickets. They wanted to make sure that we were there to check it out because they were trying to kind of get us in there, to help out or do something. But working with WWF was not the right thing to do at the moment, and that's why we backed out,
So
we went out there, but, there was no way that we were going to get involved because of our involvement already with WWF. E or F at the time, it wouldn't have been the right thing to do. But we
Yeah.
were there. Bill
Yeah,
and
I
I were there.
remember that. I remember that, man. And what was your take on that? What did you feel that night? If you could remember, like again, WWF had already kind of taken over this territory. Did it kind of feel like, and also UWF, did it kind of feel like that old sense of a little bit of that territory was coming back?
I felt that it was a little, a little bit rough, a little bit, not the type of wrestling that that Bill and I really wanted to be involved with very very hardcore. It seemed like some of our boys were wrestling.
Yeah,
Big Q was on there. A few other guys, and
the
yeah,
late great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they great. Yeah, somewhere I was proud that at least they had an opportunity to do something. And that was great. But it was a little bit too hardcore. And with what we were doing with the school and with our whatever we were doing as far as promoting, that was not the style that we wanted
yeah.
to be associated with anyway.
I remember thinking the same thing. Like I didn't grow up with that type of wrestling, but now I'm involved with this company, and that is for lack of a better word, their identity. So we kind of, a lot of us just kind of went with it, but kind of trying as hard as we could to hold up that old guard of what pro wrestling should be, right? You
Mm-hmm.
you,
Yeah.
you talked about when I first brought up the 60s and 70s to you, Jesse. You talked about how different it is now compared to then. It was magic. Kayfabe was
Yeah.
alive. Literally, kind of between where we are now and where we were in the 60s and 70s is where we were at that time when XPW started, as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't as protected as it was in the 60s and 70s, but you still
Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't.
you
But there's still
still
okay.
yeah, but you still had a decent amount of kayfabe that
Mhm.
you don't have now.
We don't have any. No, we don't have any right now.
No, even though we lost some then in the late 90s when XPW started, it was still way more kayfabe than what it is today. Because back even then, it meant something to be in that locker room, and you kind of had to keep kayfabe still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas now, it doesn't. No one cares.
No, no, no. And I'm
Yeah,
sure at XPW and some of the guys that were brought in, guys that had been around, they were very. I'm sure that they were very, very protective of kayfabe.
yeah.
Unlike maybe some of the younger kids or whatever at the time. Or that's the way I feel.
It was, and a lot of and some of the older guys would. I'm sure you've seen it all throughout the years. They're like, "Whoa, hey kid, what are you doing? You're
Yeah.
on this side of the curtain now. You have to act like
Right.
it." We s-
Hmm.
we got to experience that, thankfully,
Hmm.
right toward the
Yeah.
end there. I think.
Sure. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So 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 when did you start, Jesse? Getting into now what you do now. Let's talk a little bit about starting the School of Hard Knocks, because one of the premier schools, not only here in Cali, but well, specifically Southern California, but of course that this is the show, Cali's finest, and one of the finest schools, the School of Hard Knocks, tied in to the Empire Wrestling Federation, your EWF. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
The School of Hard Knocks, of course, was a wrestling school, but we also knew that we needed a promotion for our students to get experience and exposure,
Yeah.
and that's why Bill and I created the Empire Wrestling Federation to give our young students an opportunity to perform, you know, and and it served well. Look how many guys came out of there and are working top promotions all over the world at the moment. A lot of guys have made it. And but that was our goal. That was our goal to put a platform for our guys so that they can have a place to perform and get experience and move on to something bigger and better.
Right.
You know, it was never meant to go downhill. EWF was created for our guys to get that experience and to move forward and upward. you know, and that's not what's happening with some of our guys right now. They just want to spread out all over the place, and there's nothing wrong with that. But spread out where it's worth going to. There's good promotions out there, and why don't they try to work hard to get into New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Right.
Why not work hard and get to that instead of chicken shit little promotions that don't draw shit, and that's what burns my bridges, bro. Move on to something bigger and better. Andy Brown finally got the hint, and he moved back east, and Andy Brown is doing very well out there in the Florida area.
Right.
And we're very proud of him. And but the guys get out. They gotta get out of here. They gotta get out of California and stay away from promotions that are not gonna. It's not gonna buy them a cup of coffee, I should say.
It's good practice, like you said, but absolutely, I hear what you're saying. What do you think running the UWF for more than 25 years now, man?
EWF, not UWF.
I'm sorry, what I say? Oh, I'm sorry, EWF. Yeah, running EWF. Yeah,
I'm very proud of our accomplishments. EWF. At first, we were just using students, but the more that we worked the promotion, well, then it became something bigger. With running events, as we were at Knights of Columbus. There, we were running at one point. We were running twice a month, and then later on, we went to once a month. But we had to bring in other talent. We just couldn't do it with what we had. You have to, share that ring with other people, and so we won't bore. We will not bore our fans with the same talent. So you got to bring out other people. So, but still, it was still considered for our guys. It was
yeah.
mainly for our guys originally.
What do you think the secret is, Jesse? Why EWF is still around after 25 years?
Because I'm a dumb son of a bitch, I guess. I should have quit a long time ago, brother. But you know what? I'm always looking for that one or two good individuals that deserve that break. And that's why I keep on going forward with what I do. As much shit that I put up with, and as much disrespect that I get from a lot of people, I still keep moving forward for those that really want it.
Well, you're never going to get disrespect from me, man. I think after people see this, I can't understand what you just said. If that's even possible, someone would ever want to disrespect you. But
oh yeah, I get more respect. Listen, I get more respect out of people from the other part of the world than I do of my guys, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they think.
It doesn't make.
And I'm not saying all of them. There's some damn good people with me, man. But there's a bunch of idiots as well. And thank God we got rid of a lot of them in the past.
Yes,
exactly. I'm ready to get rid of more.
Speaking of how is it, Jesse? How do you feel when you see School of Hard Knocks alumni break out into WWE, to AEW, to New Japan?
I feel proud, bro. I feel very, very proud. I feel that everything that I've gone through was well worth it.
Right.
Was well worth it. Seeing Frankie Kazarian out there,
Yeah.
And Frankie Kazarian wound up going all the way to Boston to find out that there was a school out here 1 hour away from where he lived, and he came back a month later, and he's always had the utmost respect for Killer Kowalski. Can't take that away from him. There's got to be a reason for that, but it was the School of Hard Knocks that that helped create what he is now.
Absolutely.
With the shows, the EWF shows that we put together, we spend a lot of time with these guys, giving them that exposure that they will, need to be able to move on,
So Jesse, I'm going to leave you with this. I mean, on my other show, I always ask people what the legacy is, because we talk primarily about XPW, but this show is about Southern California, or California as a whole. But what is the future of the SoCal wrestling scene in your opinion?
Well, what the future holds, it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. guys are not, you know, they don't, I don't know, man. Uh, I don't think I'm going to be here long enough to see the future. You know, I'm 70 years old. I'm on my way out, brother. You know, and I hate to see what this is all going to be 10 years from now. You know, it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful.
Oh man. Well, hopefully, look, I don't know how much worse we could get with kayfabe being exposed. Maybe there's going to be a resurgence the other way. Hopefully, back to how it was.
But you know what? I'll tell you what, man. I've been doing the ring for Danny, you know, at Gorilla, PWG, and you know, there for a while I didn't like what I was seeing, you know, but I have the utmost respect for the guys that work there now, man. I mean, they really, to be able to work PWG, you better be a hell of a wrestler. Otherwise, you know, you're going to get your kicked out there, you know. And if you can handle that, if you can handle PWG, you can handle anything and everything.
I agree. I agree.
You know, I mean, and I have I had, you know, I had one kid that I man, this guy will be great in PWG, but he's going the wrong route and, you know, doing stupid shit in other promotions, you know, instead of concentrating in something bigger and better. I would have already had him, you know, already with Danny out there, you know, by now. But how can you do that? How can, you know, how can I trust a guy that hasn't grown, you know, mentally and stable to be able to handle something like that, you know? But I do have some good ones, brother. I'm very proud of some of the guys that I do have right now. It's just a matter of them not listening to idiots. That's all.
Right. Well, kudos to you, Jesse Hernandez, one of the greats, one of the legends, and from Body Slam to Grunt, the wrestling movie, to the Olympic Auditorium days, to the LA Sports Arena days, to the WWF, to UWF, to attending XPW, to, of course, EWF, the School of Hard Knocks, a California legend, if there ever was one, maybe the greatest. California local legends to have on this show. Right here, the Wrestling Chatter fans, be sure to subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the more great content like this we can bring to you. Be sure to like this video, share it, throw a comment down, and give it the thumbs up. And once again, subscribe. Once again, this is Cali's finest. I'm your host, Kris Kloss. Our guest today, the incomparable, the one and only Jesse Hernandez. Jesse, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you for the invite. And you're going to be hearing from me. I'm going to be giving you a call probably, hopefully within the next few weeks. There's a little project that I might beat you in. So just.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll look forward to that, man. It's always an honor working with you, man. And I forgot to mention, we also did SCCW in 2005. When after XPW folded, Kevin Kleinrock brought back SCCW. That was the first official time that you and I worked together. And I think I remember I came back, I like, this is an honor, you know. So it was an honor having you on here too, man.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity. And good luck to you.
You too, Jesse. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.